before I get on to my high school life here and how I really started to continue to progress over time, highlighting some of the positives from the first video. My grandfather was that spark of influence that I needed. He helped me with baseball. He showed me how to improve. From there, I started to understand, that, okay, I am capable of this, this, and this, but, everything's still fuzzy, everything's still clouded. I find weightlifting and football early in junior high, but then, I start to go down a dark path. I'm still trying to find out who I am, maybe that self-worth at the time, but then I realize real fast, this isn't what I want. And then I start to climb back out of that. I leave that behind, back into weightlifting and football, and starting to realize what I can do. So this is what I'm going to talk about here in the next video. All right, guys, so from the last part to now, we go through like junior high and everything else, and I'm starting to enter into my high school years. This is where things actually got like really, really tough, more so at home than anything else. But being able to still do my sports and everything else, that was still my outlet. I still wanted to, practice and train. I'm into lifting now. I'm invited to lift and train with the varsity football team. I'm excelling quickly in that, and still don't know, my self-worth and everything else. But at the same time, too, I was also surrounded by so many guys that were very talented and very strong, and I never realized until after high school, like, how gifted I guess my class really was. Either way, I'm still going through that, and I'm putting more effort into my lifting and everything else. I don't want to go home, I don't want to go home to see my dad drunk or belittling me and everything else like that, but I am I'm pushing myself more and more in the weight room, more so than I am like actually out on the field or maybe in the circle for track and everything else, just because I guess I could see my progress more with the pounds on the bar versus, being able to start or play or whatever, out on the field. And I can measure it a little bit better in track, obviously, because of the tape measure and so on. But being able to see that self progress really drove me, and being able to escape that was, I guess that was everything for me. If I didn't have that, and being able to still have my grandfather in the picture, and he always wanted to know how I was doing, really helped with that. But my dad was going through a terrible midlife crisis during this time, and I mean, his booze drinking was going through the roof at the time. He's bringing home different girls every night. This guy is living a lifestyle that he couldn't afford. He was already in a tremendous amount of debt. He even had a good job as a foreman at a tool and die shop, and he was blowing money left and right. Like, he would actually go out and max out a credit card by buying rounds for the whole bar. He wanted to act like he was living this high society lifestyle, where in all reality he was just an average working class guy, and then on top of that, he was taking that out on me, and then we don't get shit done because we're lazy and this and that, so I would round up my siblings and we'd go have to cut wood early in the morning and stuff like that to make sure the house was heated, making sure all the work and all the chores were done all the time. And it was starting to get a little bit more difficult for me because I'm trying to chase this like athletic career of mine, and I need to put more time into practice. And then to have him barking in my ear saying, "Hey, I suck because I'm not practicing," and I'm like, "Hey, dude, I'm over here doing all your goddamn work while you're hungover or you're still drinking the next day." And it's like, we're not going to live and we're not going to survive if we don't get this stuff done. Either way, he definitely got way more abusive during this time. And on top of that too, like, I can't tell you and I can't remember a time that this man has been at any of my football games or any of my track meets. And we'll get to that, in a little bit. And I do give my mom a lot of credit. She had some rough times and rough patches during this too, but she was always getting us to practice. She was always taking us home. She was always at every single football game and track meet. She didn't miss a thing, and that means a lot. Meanwhile, he was just doing whatever it is he does. But in the freshman year here, practicing with the varsity team for football, lifting's going up. I'm kind of like being lazy in a sense because, like I said, I always had that image in the back of my head, him saying like, "You suck, you suck, you suck." So I'm like, why am I going to try? So I really didn't try that hard on the football field because I was still so insecure because of this guy barking in my ear that I'm just terrible. And in all reality, looking back at it, he just was jealous of what I was becoming, and he was trying to pull me back down to his level. Because I mean, my old man, if we want to talk about his past, like yeah, he was a good track athlete, and he ran long distance, but he was a little guy, and he suffers from little man syndrome. He's only like maybe 5'3", you know, and nobody believes that. If you looked at him, you'd have no idea he was my dad. But it was just a little man complex, you know, and I happened to be blessed with some good genetics, and he hated me for it, I think, plain and simple. But, you know, off of that and on, I remember my first lifting meet, which was the West Penn lifting competition. It was like all the football teams here in like northern/western PA, and I go into deadlift. And before this, like we're training, and I remember in the weight room, like the seniors were repping 225, and I was like, I wonder if I could do that. And I'm thinking that in my head. I'm just like looking at the weight, and I forget who it was, my Filer or whatever. He was like, "You think you could pick that up, Yohman?" And I was like, I have no idea, you know. And I went and I just picked it up, and I did it for 3 reps, and I was like, oh, that wasn't that bad, you know. And it was 225, and I'm in like the 8th grade, you know, considered a freshman in football years at the time, and so I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. And we go back to this lifting competition. I have no idea what I'm capable of. And after what they saw there, they're like, okay, you know, you're going to open up at like 300 pounds. That's probably what you could do. So I'm like, oh, all right. Shimmy on up to the bar, and I just pick it right up. And I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And they're all like, holy shit, you got to go more. And I was like, well, I don't know. I was like, I don't know what I'm even capable of. And they're just like, well, go 365. You should do 50 more pounds. So I'm like, or 65 more pounds. Either way. I'm like, all right, sure, whatever. Throw that on the bar, and I pick it right up. And they're like, holy shit, that was easy. And in my head, I'm like, I don't know, is it? I don't know if it is. I have no idea what I'm capable of. And they're like, you need to go 400. And I'm like, I don't know, that's a lot of weight. I was like, 400 pounds. To me, it's like unheard of. And they're like, well, you're doing it. And they told them to put it on the bar, and I pick it up with ease. And they were like, holy shit. You know, they were like, you had more in the tank. And I was like, oh. All right. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, is this good? Is 400 pounds good? You know? And like I said, I was just like my clash with reality to what my potential was, but yet what I was told at home all the time. So I'm sitting here like, wait, am I good? Does this mean I'm good? And I was like so confused, but I definitely fell in love with it. Completely fell in love with it, because I was just like, wow, I have some kind of self-worth. I was like, I had guys cheering me on, you know, and I was one of the better deadlifters at this meet, and I had no idea what I was even capable of. And from there, it just sparked even more. And I remember I would, you know, be at football practice then, and this started more into like sophomore year, so we're gonna fast forward a little bit more. When I really started to like focus more in track too, I would lift at football practice and then go home and do the workout again, because I wanted to be better. This was like my first taste of it, where I was just like, okay, I want to be the best. And this was the first time in my head where I want, you know, like, fuck my dad, fuck him and his insecurities, his negativity and everything else. I was like, I'm going to prove to myself I can do it. And he says I can't, I'm going to do this. And this was like the first real spark. Plus, like, being able to be with my grandpa all the time too. Like, I wanted to see him as much as possible. He always told me, he always believed in me too. He was always proud of me. He always had to tell me he was proud of me. And he said that you could do whatever it is you want to do, and you could be as good as you want to be. And he goes, you're only going to get better with age. And I'll never forget him telling me that. And that was, like, you guys might have heard in some other videos, like, that spark of influence that I needed. It was the right time in my life, right when things were coming together, that fire was lit under my ass, and I wanted to start improving. And then it's transferred over to track and field. So I will backtrack just a little bit, like my first season at track and field, and I remember the coach telling me, like, because I wanted to throw, and he's like, oh, I don't think you should, you're too small, you know. And I was like $165 to 170, right around there, I think, at the time. Either way, he was like, no, you're too small. And I'm like, well, no, I want to do it. And I was very persistent. And he's like, no, I don't think you should. And I was like, well, how about this? Because varsity was top 3. And I was like, how about if I make top 3, I get to do it? And he's like, okay, fair enough, you know? And I threw the shot put, and I think I threw it at 38 or 39 feet in my first meet. and not very far, nothing crazy, but that got me the 3rd spot. So I was sitting number 3 on our varsity team for the shot put. Now, he wouldn't let me do discus or anything else because I wasn't top 3, but I at least had that. And I was like, okay, cool. So from there, I really strived to try to better myself with that. And I remember having a shot put, and I would go home and I would throw that thing in the driveway. Literally, I'm throwing on loose gravel, just the best I could. No idea what technique is, just throwing it at the top of my lifting, and it just progressed from there. I even got so much better at the shot put that I was throwing 43 feet by the end of my freshman year, and being able to qualify for districts, and not realizing that's actually an accomplishment, because in my mind, always my dad chirping in my ear, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough, and that being said, I'm always like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, I'm gonna do this, and that only progressed even more. And in my sophomore year, with the lifting, I ended up going back to that lifting competition. I ended up almost deadlifting 500 pounds. It was 465 to be exact, with plenty left in the tank. I still didn't know what I was capable of, and I didn't really train for it. I'm 15 years old at the time, and I picked up 465. And looking back at it, I'm like, wow, that's a pretty damn good deadlift. And I was 174 actually to be exact when I weighed in. I remember that. So I'm building all this muscle mass and getting so much stronger. And then on top of that, we go back to track. I don't know how to throw the discus. I only power it. But I was able to, actually, no, never mind. I didn't qualify for districts. I threw 117, and districts was like 122. If I knew how to spin, I probably would have made it. But I threw 117 from power, was my best that year. But I was able to throw the shot put 48 feet. And I was like, all right, this is awesome. And now for districts, I think I choked, and I threw like a 45 something, but I still placed. And I placed as a sophomore at a District 10 meet. And I was like, all right, things are starting to come together. And I was playing football, and I didn't start, most of my class actually started, but me, I played, a good bit. I think I finished, I played a defensive end, and I got a lot of playing time. I think I finished up at like 40 some tackles, actually, for that season without starting. And I thought that was pretty decent at defensive end, but like Pat Hughes, that Euro linebacker, he was just a savage. He was the one raking in all the tackles and everything else. But, with that being said, I'm seeing this like little bit of success, and I'm really just feeding off of it now. I'm still socially awkward, I'm starting to develop some social skills, but like, getting into the nitty gritty, or actually, I'll save that nitty gritty for the next part. We probably won't be able to finish my high school up here and stuff like that. But, like going back to the midlife crisis of my father, as he started to see me get better and better, he's getting more and more negative. And he's really just like belittling me. He's starting to beat the shit out of us a little bit more. But like I said, I think like life's hitting him pretty hard, and he never maybe accomplished what he did. He's maybe screwed up. I don't know. Taking like some psychology courses in college and really trying to figure out what he was, really was just a monster. But, yeah, he was really starting to take that out on me, call me stupid all the time because of my grades, and he would just hound that in my head. And he started to threaten to kill himself a lot. I remember a lot of times. I remember the one time coming into the kitchen, and he would just point his gun at me, plain and simple, and be like, tell me why I shouldn't fucking kill you right now. And I wouldn't know what to say at that time. And I don't know where he's going with it. I just come in, I think I was fishing, to be honest with you, down at our pond, and just trying to get away. It was one of my outlets. And I come in, and he's just hammered drunk. He was drinking screwdrivers all the time, just had a bottle of vodka there, and things like got a third of it left, and he just sitting there with his gun. And just pointed at me, will tell me why I shouldn't fucking kill you, you piece of shit. You're stupid, right? You're fucking stupid. And he would say shit like that. And I just wouldn't say a word. And I'm just like, whatever, man. Just leave me alone. Like, I just want to be left alone. And stuff like that. But I'm going to really get into that nitty gritty here next week and stuff, because there's a lot to talk about. And this is where I really start to grow up. I had to mature fast. I had to just get the hell out of there. And then that leads into college and everything else from there. But I'll fill you guys in more on that. It's going to be a lot, and not trying to plead the sob story or anything like that, but like that was one of the most defining turning points of my life, and we're going to get there next week. All right, you guys, and obviously the sports was my outlet. I'm really starting to discover more of those outlets and some positivity in my life, and that's why I want to address like this life story. You guys have heard the bits and pieces and stuff. I want you to be able to relate. I want the video to help, and that's why we're pumping out this content. And once again, my outlet through this bad home life and these bad times were sports and weightlifting. And if you go back to the other videos, you know what I mean, during those, where am I going to go? Where am I heading in my life? Now you see the path I'm going, and maybe some of you out there can realize, okay, maybe this is what I should do. But once again, that is the road less traveled. It is a harder path to take, but it is the right choice. But remember, the right choice is always the toughest one.